watching. 4 feet. You're in.
Because I can complete anything.
Can someone explain this to me? How did this get away from you, Jonas?
It's complicated. He's very smart. He's very angry.
I'm not having this conversation. I don't care how smart he is or who's helping me. Release a statement saying we have suspects with following leads, nothing alarming.
We are gonna stop this guy. He's not gonna hurt anybody else.
I'm assigning security to you from now on. Get the situation under control.
All calls and all records and computers to pass.
Alright, so in order to get a little bit of an extended cab area up here, so I have enough room to have my seat back far enough since I'm 6'5", I'm going to be taking a portion of this end piece here and splicing it in up here using part of the door and connecting the roofs to make this pillar exist here, and there'll be a small filler piece in between, and it'll basically have like an extra cab area with no glass. I need to cut here and here. I'm going to be utilizing the original back hatch and glass, and yeah, so I'm going to kind of walk you through how I determine my cuts, because a lot of people don't understand how I come to be. I always cut farther away from where I'm going to need to end up, because you can always take more off. You can't always add more. So from the door to the back of the seat, I'm at about 9 inches. And this is about 7.5. So I'm going to try to cut over here. There's a spot weld there that I can use for reference. So it's about 9 inches from the end of the glass. So I will mark my 9 inches from the end of the glass. And this is just for rough cut. This isn't going to be my final cut, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So then I'll do the same down here. Actually, I'll cut this one a little closer, because I want a little more room down here. So I'll cut this one at 6. And then I always use masking tape to guide my cuts. So I'm just going to take this masking tape. And once again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because this isn't my final cut. I'm not going to be stuck on this. So I'll cut there. Cut there. And then I'm trying to keep this body line because I like the way it looks, and I think it'll, once the thing's all done and painted, it'll actually kind of look more factory. So I'm going to come all the way down to the top of this little hip where it bumps out for the taillight. Not going to be using this, so just going to eyeball it and cut right along where that hip ends. Because the plan is to have this just go straight into the door. And then the door will end right about here. And it'll work its way down, and the wheel will be up a little closer to the seats. I'm going to move this wheel forward about 10 inches. So I'm going to measure out the same cuts on the other side. Probably take the hatch off just so it's out of the way. And then I will cut straight across the roof and cut through all this and take this back portion off so I can save it. And then I will take some more measurements off that and figure out where I can cut this. I'm going to leave my roof tin long so I can overlap them a little bit, punch holes in them, and then plug weld it. It's a much better way to seam it. And then I'll figure out where my doors need to be cut, get them all marked up, pull them off, cut them off the truck so I'm not, you know, shooting sparks all inside the truck and getting it all nasty. So, yeah, about ready to cut. Oh my God.
Can I help you? You're just the guy we're looking for, Royce.
So our tape marks from earlier, I'm going to take a piece of tape, lightly string it between the two, and then I'm going to just slowly work it through all the ups and downs of the roof here. So we're straight onto another line. It's important to keep cuts like this straight when you're going across a long area, because then it'll just splice up a lot nicer when you go to do your connection. And then I have a little tool that will clamp on the end of here, and it'll pop 1/8 holes. And I'll go along and I'll pop probably 6 holes per span here and 2 up here. And then when I meet up the 2 pieces, I'll overlap them. And then I go along and I can just plug weld my holes. And it'll be a real nice connection, and you can just float it out with a little bit of fiberglass. And that's how I did my roof on my Suzuki truck, and very happy with the results. It's seen a lot of abuse and haven't had any issues with it. So I'm gonna run the grinder wheel across this side of the tape, keep it nice and straight with the tape. And I'll have a real clean cut, so when I go to mate this up with the roof up further up here on the body, everything's just gonna lay in real nice. And when I get all done, you won't be able to find the seam. quickest way to get it out of there. Clean cut. So I've got the whole top piece that I'm going to be reusing cut off now. All of this is going to be garbage. So I'm going to reach out to some friends and see if there's any kind of patch panels they need for their own builds. I might save the floor from this for another vehicle I have that's kind of rough, so I can chop it up and make patch panels. In the next video, we're going to be cutting all of this off, and we might chop the frame too. All the rear suspension on this is garbage. The tank is already pulled out of it. Because I started to rob parts off this vehicle, and then it just kind of sat. So I'm thinking when we go to cut the body, I'm just going to go ahead and cut right through the frame rails too, because everything from where I start my build back is all garbage. So next video, we'll get the back seat out, we'll cut the roof, and we'll cut through the floor, get the frame rails chopped, and roll this whole back end out. Then we can start bringing home some tubing and get some jack stands out and start mocking up the rear frame rails, how they're going to be, and get the axles rolled in here and start figuring out the rear suspension. So once all this sheet metal's out of the way, it's going to start to take shape really fast. So kind of bear with me through all this. But so far I'm really excited with how I think it's going to turn out. It's working in my head, which normally I have a pretty good way of picturing how things are gonna fit together. They normally tend to fit the way I wanted them to. If they don't, I don't really give them the option. I just make it work. So we'll see how it pans out, and we'll keep the videos rolling the whole way. And hopefully it's a lot of fun in the process. We'll see you next week.